Well, hello. Hello there, people. I hope you're keeping very well indeed. I know it's been a little while since my last upload, but I do have something special for you in UK Master Duel, and that is the deck construction of my Maid's Jumble Sale deck. I really wanted to make Dragonmaids work in one way or another. They've long since seen their glory days in any iteration of Yu-Gi-Oh! Really, whether it's TCG, OCG or Master Duel. So they really need support or to be combined with another deck to work. And funnily enough, there are some Dragonmaid cards which actually mill from deck to graveyard. There is particular Dragonmaid cards which have effects when they're in the graveyard. And yeah, there's just a few graveyard shenanigans, essentially. So what better than to combine it with Tearlaments, and then on top of that, put some Bystials in there. Now, I did go through a bit of a process putting this together. I did try just Dragonmaids and Bystials at first, and they were okay, but they were just meh, really. Then I just had Dragonmaids and Tearlaments, which was much better. And then I had all three together, and they're crazy. This is just such a fun deck to play. Now, on that note, this is a 60 card deck with a lot of effects and a lot of plays that can be made. So I don't want this video to go on forever. I've already done one previously for this, but it ended up being nearly 45 minutes without me even getting through the rest of the deck. So if I do miss out on something, or you've got a question about particular plays, particular effects, then please do put a comment in the section below and I will respond as soon as possible, because I really want you to enjoy this too. And like I said, there are a lot of effects here, so do be mindful of the time limit within Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which is currently 300 seconds for ranked as of this recording. I've timed myself out quite a few times. Half of that is me just being old and even rereading my own cards, let alone trying to think about the opponent. So do bear that in mind when trying to pilot it the first few times. Without further ado, let's get into the deck, shall we? We have 3 Maxx. That doesn't need any explanation whatsoever. So we'll move straight on to the next. 1 Nurse Dragonmaid. There are quite a few cards in here which don't have ways to special summon themselves out, so there is a limit on some of these cards, like, well, a lot of the Dragonmaid cards and Supreme Sea Mare. So bear that in mind with how I've calculated the best amounts of cards really for this. So 1 Nurse Dragonmaid, that is enough really anyway. You definitely don't want 2 in your hand, and you can't use the Dragonmaid effects more than once per turn either. So best be safe, just have the 1 Nurse Dragonmaid. And its effect is, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target 1 level 4 or lower Dragonmaid monster in your graveyard, except Nurse Dragonmaid, special summon it. And your targets are either going to be Laundry Dragonmaid for gambling, Parlor Dragonmaid for a specific Dragonmaid card to go to the graveyard, depending on what follow-up plays you have, or Chamber Dragonmaid, which can get a Dragonmaid spell or trap to your hand instead. So all 3 very, very good targets. You just have to make the decision on what would be best for your scenario. Moving on to one of the Dragonmaids, we run 2 Laundry Dragonmaid because its effect is really important. Its milling is really cool. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, and of course that can set up effects like Tearlaments. It can get particular Tearlaments support cards in the grave, as well as Dragonmaid Tidying or Dragonmaid Changeover. Also, even your graveyard shufflers as well. There's a lot it can just randomly hit in this deck, and that's half the fun with it. So definitely run 2 of these. We've got 1 Crystal Beast Emerald Tortoise. Not completely useless if you've drawn it or put it in the graveyard, because it can be used as fusion material for your Tearlament effects, which is nice. But ideally, you want to try and put it back into the deck, whether it be with the graveyard shufflers or a Tearlaments fusion, so that when you hit Rainbow Bridge of Salvation into the graveyard, you can then use this effect to draw both Crystal Beast Emerald Tortoise to your hand, as well as Primeval Planet Pearlarina. Just a quick note, same goes with this field spell here. Ideally, you want this in the in the deck so that you can pull off Rainbow Bridge of Salvation's effects. But again, there's multiple ways to play this deck. Just bear it in mind when you're trying to use Rainbow Bridge of Salvation and whether it's worth targeting Crystal Beast, Emerald Tortoise just yet to go back into the deck. We then have one Parlor Dragonmaid. If this card is normal, special, sorry, lost my speech there. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one Dragonmaid card from your deck to the graveyard, except Parlor Dragonmaid. Now, you can go for Dragonmaid monsters if you wanted to, but I would only really choose a Dragonmaid monster if you've already got to play with Nurse Dragonmaid, so that you can use its effect to special summon out the Dragonmaid card that you've just sent to the graveyard. So do bear that in mind. You can also get rid of the level 7s if you want to, but you want to try and save these for Dragonmaid Hospitality when you can activate that, so that you've got a free extra mill when you use this spell here. So if you don't go for a monster, ideally you want to go for Dragonmaid Tidying, which has an effect. Being a trap, you can use its effect in your turn or your opponent's turn, which is great. Or you've got Dragonmaid Changeover to send to the graveyard. Do not send Dragonmaid Hospitality because that does not have an in-graveyard effect. Just be aware of that. We then got one Tearlaments Havnis. You can only play one anyway. Its effects, both of them great. When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So more gambling, puts a body on the field as an extra line of defense. And then if this card, as always with the Tearlaments Sheiren or Tearlaments Havnis, if this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, except damage step, you can fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck by placing fusion materials mentioned on it from your hand, field and or graveyard, including this card from your graveyard on the bottom of the deck in any order. You can only go for the Tearlaments fusion cards. You can't use it for Dragonmaid Shield or House Dragonmaid, so just bear that in mind with the Tearlaments. Not that you would usually try to target these with the Tearlaments fusion summon effect anyway. Then got one Fairy Tale Snow, really cool card to mill, because if it is milled and in the graveyard, you can use its quick effect at any point to banish 7 cards, whether it be a combination of your hand, field or graveyard, and special summon it, then use its effect to target an opponent's monster and put it face down. Very, very annoying ability. And can be a lifesaver, so definitely play one of these. Chambered Dragonmaid. Actually run 3 of these, even though it doesn't have a way to special summon itself out, because pulling things like Dragonmaid Hospitality is quite important. If you've got more Dragonmaids in your hand, you can play this to start freeing up your hand, triggering off other effects, go into link summoning, etc, etc, etc. However, if you are in a bit of a bind, you can also, again, search for Dragonmaid Tidying to set pass to the opponent after doing what else you can for the turn anyway, and then you can target your Chambered Dragonmaid or other dragon monster, put that back to your hand and aim at an opponent's card, send that back to their hand as well. So yeah, there's a couple of options there, as well as of course Dragonmaid Changeover if you've got the materials to fusion summon into Dragonmaid Sheiren. Then got one Supreme Sea Mare. Again, with the amount of normal summoning, that's been cut to 1, but it's quite useful still if you haven't drawn into Reinoheart or any other sort of nonsense. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 aqua monster from your deck to the graveyard except Supreme Sea Mare. So again, that triggers Tearlament fusion summoning. And then during your end phase, you contribute this card, then target 1 aqua monster in your graveyard except Supreme Sea Mare, add it to your hand if you haven't used this for fusion summoning already, because it needs to be on the field. So 1 of those. Then got 2 Sheiren. Really, really good card. And you'll be using both of its effects, of course the fusion summoning part, but also during your main phase you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, send 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard, then send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So that's your milling. You can also set up for some Dragonmaid play, so if you got rid of a Laundry Dragonmaid and you've got Nurse Dragonmaid ready to go as well, then that starts again another chain of events also. You can obviously discard your graveyard shufflers if you've drawn them as well, and even put just a light, dark, etc. I say light, there's not many light monsters in here, but dark monsters into the grave for your Bystial plays as well. So you've got many targets to discard with Sheiren, which is the point I'm trying to get across. Really, really good card. Run at 2. We've then got 3 Reinoheart. Although you can argue you'd be normal summoning this more often than not, and why have it at 3, it's also the fact that it's got its special summoning ability, as well as if its first effect does pull off, then you start a chain of events for milling your deck with the fusion summoning, etc, etc. So definitely run these 3. Also don't forget it's a second effect of if you've milled, you can special summon it out from the graveyard by discarding a Tearlaments card, and again triggering the first effect. Although you can only use each effect once per turn, so bear that in mind. You then got the 2 graveyard shufflers, so Keldo and Mudora. Non-negotiable, put them in. You just have to, okay? It's definitely a 50-50 mix of keeping an eye on your graveyard so that you're trying to put things back into your deck to trigger other effects in your graveyard, as well as messing with the opponent's graveyard also. Do bear that in mind. We then got 1 each of the main, or at least what I feel are the main bystials that go into any deck. So 1 Bystial Magnamhut, 1 Bystial Druiswurm, and 1 Bystial Baldrake. There's no Sea because there's not too much Bystial support in here, so you won't be getting off many effects with that. However, these 3, absolutely beautiful cards. Only 1 Druiswurm, even with the lift to 3, because A, there's not enough room in here anyway, but B, I think 3 or even 2 is a bit too much depending on the situation. So yeah, run all 3 of these. If using Magnamhut's effect, usually you would aim to get Druiswurm in your hand. However, if you've already got Druiswurm, or if you see another play, you can aim for any other dragon card, which does include the Dragonmaid, so do bear that in mind. Also bear in mind with Bystial Baldrake, with the amount you can be special summoning, it's quite easy to have a monster on board, another light or dark monster to tribute as part of its effect, instead of trying to tribute off Bystial Baldrake itself. You know, you could tribute Chamber Dragonmaid, you could tribute Tearlaments Sheiren. There's a few dark monsters you've got in here to be able to trigger off its special summon negation effect, which is amazing. We then got 1 Destrudo, the Lost Dragon's Frisson. Ideally, again, you want this milled in the graveyard and not to be using its effect in the hand. You can use it in the hand if needs must, but it seems a bit of a shame. It's almost like you know, you're going -1 because you're not sending it to the graveyard for a cost of something else and then using its effect, so bear that in mind. And its effect, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you could pay half your life points and target a level 6 or lower monster you control, special summon this card, and if you do, this card's level is reduced by the level of the targeted monster. Also place this card on the bottom of the deck if it leaves the field. You're going to be using this to get into Baron, so do count up your cards. There's different count up your cards, count up your levels, that's what I mean. You'll have many different ones on the field, so whether it be level 4, level 2, level 3, and just see what you can merge with. Just an easy one, again, is you can target a level 3 monster to make it level 4, tune it with a level 6 Bystial monster and go from there. But there's plenty others. Like I say, you'll be spamming bodies on the board with the Dragonmaids. If you've got the key pieces to do so. So you'll definitely be able to synchro summon into Baron with little effort at all. You've then got Dragonmaid Ernus, Dragonmaid Nudyarl, and I'll skip Tearlaments Kashtira for a moment, Dragonmaid Lorpar. So these 3, not great to have in the hand. Ernus is a slight exception, because as a quick effect you could discard it and special summon a level 4 or lower Dragonmaid monster from your hand. And then Lorpar, secondary, you could discard this card, then target 1 face-up monster on the field. Players cannot activate this target's effects on the field this turn, which is also cool. This one, not so much. You could discard this card, then target 1 monster in either graveyard, shuffle it into the deck. It's not even a quick effect, so this is the worst Nudyarl. Either way, this is to go in line with Dragonmaid Hospitality, where if you special summon one of these, then you put the other in the graveyard, its counterpart. So, you know, pink for pink, purple for purple, and green for green. So that's why these cards are in there. Plus, it's the fodder for fusion summoning to Dragonmaid Sheiren. And on top of that, it is still possible to have Dragonmaids left on the field to then go into the battle phase to then be able to special summon out the bigger Dragonmaids. So not completely useless, a necessary evil. Just really sucks if out the 60 card deck you happen to draw all 3 of these. You know, it's just one of those things, isn't it? Then got 1 Tearlaments Kashtira, super important. Have to play it, gets all the milling into place, and we'll go through the combo near the end of this video as well in case you're unaware of the general Tearlaments line, or at least what I feel is the general Tearlaments line. 3 Bystial Lubellion, super important card, hence why it's at 3. Discard it and then bring a Bystial from your deck to your hand. I know it says in particular add 1 Bystial monster from your deck to your hand, except the Bystial Lubellion. You're not going to search for another Lubellion anyway. It's going to be usually Magnamhut, get its effect off, then bring a Bystial Lubellion onto the field, and then use its effect to search for Branded Regained. One thing to note as well, and we'll cover it very shortly, is it's quite easy to get dark in the graveyard if you've got a Chambered Dragonmaid, because then you can link summon into Strike a Dragon, which then puts a dark into the grave if the opponent doesn't have something in there you can use already, and then that gives you your fodder to have both Magnamhut and have Magnamhut on the field to be able to special summon the Bystial Lubellion. Nice and easy. Going on to the spells now, we've got Card Destruction. Very cool card because, especially in a Tearlaments deck where you're wanting to send cards to the graveyard, it could trigger off effects. Also, if you're up against Maxx, you might want to play the Maxx challenge. There's quite a few special summons that you can do here, and Card Destruction can help you finish the job. 1 Foolish Burial. There's plenty of monsters to choose from. You could choose the general Tearlaments to get fusion summoning off. You could pick a target to be able to get Nurse Dragonmaid. Having an extra summon, a summon from the graveyard, depending on what you choose. There's your graveyard shufflers as well, and even the Destrudo, the Lost Dragon's Frisson as well. So plenty to choose from. Even Tearlaments Kashtira to a degree, but usually you'd want to keep that for a particular combo, which, like I say, I'll bring up later. Got 1 Foolish Burial Goods. Sorry, excuse me. So Foolish Burial Goods. There's plenty to choose from here as well. You could, ideally, number 1, I would choose Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, because that helps get you your Crystal Beast, Emerald, Tortoise, and more importantly, the Primeval Planet Pelourinho to your hand, and really start going plus, and starting a chain of events there. But if not that, you do have the Dragonmaid Tidying, you've got the Tearlaments Trap cards, even the spell card, and Trigger Karma also to target. And even, if needs be, Dragonmaid Changeover. So plenty of targets for Foolish Burial Goods. 1 That Grass Looks Greener. If you're lucky to get it early on, then boy howdy are you going to have a party. If it's late game, then definitely not as useful, because you've probably already milled through enough of your deck to be less, or to have less cards than your opponent. However, you can still use it as fodder for Forbidden Droplet, so not completely useless. Not completely useless. 1 Dark Ruler No More. Super important in this game where there could be tons of effects, monster effects rather, on the field to try and overcome if you're going second. Can be searched as well with Triple Tactics Thrust, hence why we run 1 of these instead of multiple. Dragonmaid Hospitality, I did mention briefly about how good this card is. I've got 2 of these in because I think it's really important, but not so much that to have 3, because that could end up clogging your hand, especially if you don't have Dragonmaids yet. Just dropped my phone. Ignore that slam if you haven't heard. if you did hear that. Anyway, Dragonmaid Hospitality. So ideally, you want to target one of your little Dragonmaids so you can special summon it out to get its effect off, and then dump a big one to the graveyard. If you do it the other way round, then yeah, this doesn't have an effect on the field other than at the end of the battle phase, where you can then special summon out the counterpart back onto the field. You just got to make sure that this survives the battle phase to be able to trigger that. So yeah, 2 of those. 1 Dragonmaid Changeover. Again, 1 is enough and super important to the deck fusion summon one dragon fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. And this is, of course, used for Dragonmaid Shio. Bear in mind, Shio says to use a Dragonmaid monster plus a level 5 or higher dragon monster. So you can use one of the Bystials, even Lubellion. You could use Destrudo, the Lost Dragons, Frisson, as part of the secondary material needed for Dragonmaid Shio. So do bear that in mind when thinking whether to bring Dragonmaid's changeover to your hand or not. One Triple Tactics talent. It's going to be one of those ones where you either use it and it's super important, or it could end up dead in your hand. But the fact it is searchable from Triple Tactics Thrust and we've only got one in the deck, I think this is good enough. And of course, depending on the situation, maybe think about putting it back into the deck with a Graveyard Shuffler if you've got Triple Tactics Thrust and your opponent has got some nasty effects on the board. Speaking of which, we then got 2 Triple Tactics Thrust. Not enough room for 3, but I think 2 is a sweet spot anyway for this deck. If your opponent has activated a monster effect during this turn, set a normal spell or trap directly from your deck, except Triple Tactics Thrust. Or, if your opponent controls a monster, you can add it to your hand instead. So, if they don't have a monster on the field, then what you're looking at is either Dragonmaid Tidying or Tearlaments Metanoise. You don't really want to go for anything else. I know I highlighted Trivikama there, but you could aim for it, but you're not going to use its first effect, so don't do that. You've either got, again, Dragonmaid Tidying, Tearlaments Metanoise, or if you felt especially spicy, you could set something else on the field, like Dragonmaid Changeover, ready for next turn. Even if it's destroyed, you could bring it back by bringing a Dragonmaid back to your hand from the field. But yes, otherwise the secondary effect where you can add the card to your hand instead, super important, because that opens up things like Dark Ruler No More, the Dragonmaid Hospitality, the Triple Tactics Talon, etc, etc, so do bear that in mind. Then got 1 Primeval Planet Pearlerino, super good card, no wonder it's at 1. You activate it, you can add a Tearlaments monster or a Vita Starfrost from your deck to hand. You don't run Vita Starfrost, so it's just a Tearlaments. Fusion monsters and Tearlaments monsters you control gain 500 attack, so Dragonmaid Shio can become a 4000 beat stick and actually crash into, Blue Eyes Chaos Maxx Dragon, if you really needed to. But yeah, that is a possibility. And then if a Tearlaments monster you control or in your graveyard is shuffled into the deck or extra deck, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. You can only use this effect or once per turn, each of those. You can only activate 1 Primeval Planet Pearlerino per turn as well. So it's not like you can bust it, bring it back out again, and then activate it again. It's just, you can only activate it once. So bear that in mind. And also bear in mind the chain sequence of events as well. Because if you've got this as Chain Link 1, and you're doing all sorts to push the opponent's cards back to the hand, the graveyard, the deck, etc. And they've got nothing left, and then you've got this as Chain Link 1, then you have to target one of your own monsters and destroy it, which really sucks. So yeah, bear that in mind. 1 Branded Regained. Again, it's the only target for Bystial Lubellion, and it's super important to bring your Bystials back onto the field, as well as if any more removal happens, you can put it back into the deck, either your deck or your opponent's deck, depending on what you're targeting, and then draw a card, as long as it's a light or dark monster. Really good. Run 1 of these. 3 Tearlaments Scream. Super important to both have on the field and mill. If you have it on the field, and a Tearlaments monster is summoned, or another monster is summoned while a Tearlaments monster is on the field, then you can send the top 3 cards off your deck to the graveyard, and your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack for the rest of the turn. Also, if this card is sent to the graveyard, so the milling piece, you can add 1 Tearlaments trap from your deck to your hand. So that's any trap, whether it be continuous or standard, bear that in mind. Then got 2 Call by the Grave, pretty standard card, run them just because, they're really good, generic, nice. Then got 3 Forbidden Droplet. I did run 3 Infinite Impermanence when I was first putting this deck together, but actually Forbidden Droplet has been more handy. The fact that not only in the right circumstances can your opponent not even respond to it, but the fact that you'd be sending cards to the graveyard, like any garnets that have gone into your hand, like, you know, Crispy Emerald Tortoise, or the trap cards that need to go to the grave, or Dragonmaid cards to then again trigger Nurse Dragonmaid's effect. Yeah, this just worked out a lot better. So run 3 Forbidden Droplet instead of Infinite Permanence, in my opinion. And then 3 Dragonmaid Tidying. Again, super good card. I did run it at 2, and that wasn't enough. It's it's just so good in this deck. So it's got 2 effects, and you can only activate 1 per turn. Bear that in mind. So first effect: target a dragon monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls or in their graveyard. Return them to the hand, and that's target a dragon. So you can aim for your Bystial as well, and then be able to use its effect again, depending if you've already special summoned it or wait for your opponent's turn. Really, really good. And then its second effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon a Dragonmaid monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position, but return it to the hand during the end phase. Returning isn't usually an issue. Being able to special summon something out to get an effect off, or even put a body on board, just to stop that final blow, is really, really good. And yeah, it's great. It's just great. Run it at 3. Just do it, okay? We then got 1 Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. You only need 1. Again, its targets are the Primeval Planet Pearlerino and Crystal Beast Emerald Tortoise. So if this goes in the grave and one of these are either in your hand or in the grave, you can't activate its ability. So bear that in mind when you're trying to use it. 1 Tearlaments Metanoise. If you control a Tearlaments monster or Visa Starfrost, target a face-up monster your opponent controls, change it to face-down defense position. Really, really nice effect there. Then send a Tearlaments monster from your deck to the graveyard. Again, very nice effect. Start fusion summoning if you've got the materials to do so. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you could target 1 Tearlaments monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. It's great. Run 1 of these. And then 1 Trivikarma. So you could aim for the field spell if you're having trouble dumping Rainbow Bridge of Salvation and using its effect. But otherwise, you've got other targets you can use, you can search for once it's in the grave, whether it be Tearlaments Scream, or Tearlaments Metanoise, or Tearlaments Sulliek. Just to clarify, actually, with both Trivikarma and Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, you're not using their first effects. They'll be completely useless set on the field, unless you just wanted to use them as bait / sent with Forbidden Droplet as part of its payment requirement. So yeah, don't think you're going to get the first of these effects off for Trivikarma or Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. It's not even worth mentioning. Just the graveyard effects only. And then 1 Tearlaments Sulliek. If you control a Tearlaments monster, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effect. Super, super good. Then send 1 monster you control to the graveyard. So it doesn't have to be the Tearlaments monster. It could be one of the Dragonmaid bodies or a Bystial if you really wanted to. But yeah, do bear that in mind. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can add a Tearlaments monster from your deck to your hand. Super good effect. No wonder it's limited to 1. Now, moving on to the extra deck, we've got Tearlaments Kitkalos, Tearlaments Rulkalos, and Tearlaments Kaleidoheart. So 1 each of these. Again, I'll go through the general Tearlaments line as well in a little bit. But yet, fusion summoning these are extremely good. You know, Rulkalos having a special summon negate, which is amazing. And then, you know, bringing out Kaleidoheart on your turn to start removing cards from the opponent's field is super good. Also, you've then got 1 House Dragonmaid and 1 Dragonmaid Sheiren. Bear in mind, you must have House Dragonmaid in your extra deck to be able to use Dragonmaid Sheiren's Omni Negate effect. You can still fusion summon out Dragonmaid Sheiren without having this in the extra deck, but it just means you've got a 3500 beat stick. Although you do have its special summon ability of, during each standby phase, you special summon a level 9 or lower Dragonmaid monster from your hand or graveyard, which again can hit Nurse Dragonmaid, which again can then hit another Dragonmaid card. So not completely useless without the negation, but you want the negation, okay? You want the negation. Baron de Fleur, that needs no explanation. Again, you get to synchro summon out with Destrudo. 1 Chaos Angel, really easy to special summon out with a Bystial and a level 4, whether it be Chamber Dragonmaid, Tearlaments Sheiren, or Tearlaments Reinoheart there. Excuse me. So bear in mind, for this card synchro summon, you can treat one light or dark monster you control as a tuner. So you can't just do a random mix of water, wind, and earth. That probably doesn't even count to 10, but you know what I mean. One-time Thief Redoer, super good in any Tearlaments deck, really. Because if you've used the special summon ability of Tearlaments Reinoheart, where it's then going to get banished when it leaves the field, you can attach it as Exceed material instead, and that not only saves the Reinoheart, but also if you then send the other material, which is usually Tearlaments Sheiren, as part of the Time Thief Redoer effect, then you can do a fusion summon immediately off of that. So bear that in mind. One Superstar Slayer Typhon. This is to be used in urgent situations, really. If you've really got nothing, your opponent's got a full... like, my thinking with this is, especially going up against pure Kashtira, and they've got Kashtira Riseheart already out. The problem is, your deck relies on the graveyard, and having everything banished, you might as well just concede immediately. So if you don't have a way to negate it, take control of it, get rid of it, etc., then Starslayer Typhon, as long as it's uninterrupted, can send it back to the extra deck. One Striker Dragon might not seem important, but again, is important for getting a dark in the Graveyard Chamber Dragonmaid, or if you're using a different Dragonmaid, then at least this is material for going into SP Little Knight to get its banishment effect off, which is really nice. Also, one Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. Bearing in mind its quick effect can only work if it's in the extra monster zone, so do bear that in mind. But otherwise, if this card is tributed, special summon one dragon monster from your hand or deck and make its attack and defense 0. Again, you can special summon out so much with effects, whether it be Magnamhut, Nurse Dragonmaid to pull out one of the other Dragonmaids, or even Bystial Lubellion if you really wanted to. There's no level limit on the Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. So have a think about what you want to do with that. Then got one Dark the Dark Charmer. You do have a few Darks in this deck, so you know this is quite nice to have, even if the opponent doesn't play Darks. Worst case scenario, this can be substituted out for something else if you want. If you're not a fan of Dark the Dark Charmer. Sprite Elf. I've been battling internally as to whether this is actually good for the deck or not, and actually it is. It's helped me out in so many situations, even with a bit of a duff hand. Getting this out and triggering Nurse Dragonmaid's effect with the target of Sprite Elf, getting another Dragonmaid out, and then going into SP Little Knight, even without the banishment effect, at least you're passing on a turn where you've then got something reactionary. Yeah, really, really good. Speaking of which, one SP Little Knight, and then one Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, because you can spam out quite a bit on the board. So do bear that in mind if you can summon this or not. Negation is always nice. And that kind of wraps up the Maid's Jumble Sale deck. I know I've been talking for a little while, so I'll wrap this up fairly quickly with the Tearlaments, the general Tearlaments combo, which is, for those that don't know, very, very standard one is if you summon out Tearlaments Reinoheart, you then target Tearlaments Havnis to be sent to the graveyard. You then fuse the two to go into Tearlaments Kashtira with its effect from being special summoned. You target the Tearlaments Kashtira to go to the graveyard only if you haven't already drawn Tearlaments Kashtira, of course. That then mills 2. You then use Tearlaments Kashtira to tribute itself to target Tearlaments Kashtira, special summon from the graveyard, and then you would chainlink one Tearlaments Kashtira to mill 5, and then Tearlaments Kashtira to mill 3. Very important for that chainlink in case the opponent ashes the Tearlaments Kashtira, and then if all that goes off without a hitch anyway, then just that combo alone mills 10 cards. Really, really good, especially in a 60 card deck, and it's my usual go-to line for milling. So with that, I'm going to leave you to it. Do try this out. It's super fun, especially with a twist of having Dragonmaids in it. It's wild. I found this super enjoyable to play and put together, and I hope you do too. So once you've given it a go, do pop your comments in the section below. But even if you haven't given it a go, do pop your comments in the section below anyway. Let me know your thoughts and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So until next time, people, you take care of yourselves and I will see you again soon. Bye bye for now.